Hello everyone! Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening at kung anong oras ka man nanonood ng discussion na to, magandang araw sa iyo. So today, we will be talking about the measures of absolute dispersion, and without further ado, let me just introduce to you the topics na pag-uusapan po natin under the measures of absolute dispersion. So ano nga ba yung mga topics sa pag-aaralan natin or included dito sa discussion natin? The first one is the range, followed by the quartile deviation. Next is the mean deviation, and then the standard deviation and the variance. Okay, let's start with the range first. According to the definition, it is the simplest measure of absolute dispersion. This is just the largest data point minus the smallest data point, and we can write this as R, or the range, is equal to the highest data point minus the lowest data point. For example, if a data set consisted of the points 2, 4, 5, 8, and 18, find the range. So, according to our formula, yung range daw natin ay highest data point minus lowest data point lang. Okay, but we have to determine the highest data point first and then the lowest data point. Yung highest data point natin sa problem natin is 18 and the lowest data point is 2, then we can just find the range by just substitute lang natin yung atin pong nakuha na value, which is 18 and 2, and it will give us a result of 16, and 16 will be our answer for the range. Okay, next we will be talking about the quartile deviation. The quartile deviation can be defined mathematically as half of the difference between the upper and the lower quartile. Here, quartile deviation can be represented as QD, wherein the third quartile denotes the upper quartile and the first quartile indicates the lower quartile. So ito po yung formula natin. We have QD is equal to the third quartile minus the second quartile, and then the difference that we're going to obtain there will soon be divided into 2 for us to get the quartile deviation. Okay, kung titingnan natin mabuti, parang medyo may konting familiarity with the formula. Kasi parang yung quartile deviation ay halos kamukha ng ating isang formula, which is the interquartile range. So, yung interquartile range natin, recall lang natin yung topic na na-discuss natin last time. Interquartile range was just equal to the third quartile minus the first quartile. Ito yung interquartile range natin. And we can say na yung atin palang quartile deviation is just equal to 1/2 of our interquartile range. Kasi yung interquartile range nga natin is the upper quartile minus the lower quartile already. So, ito po yung formula natin. Next, we will be talking about the mean deviation. Mean deviation is the statistical measure of the average deviation of the values from the mean in a sample. It is calculated by finding the average of the observation. The difference of each observation from the mean then is determined. Okay, and then the deviations then are arranged, and this analysis is used to calculate the sporadic observations from the mean. Kung gaano ba kalayo yung atin pong value from the value of the mean. For the value of the observation from the value of the mean. So, ganun po yung gagawin natin for the mean deviation, and here, meron daw tayong difference between the observation and the mean is determined, and we denote this as x minus mu. So, mu stands for mean. So, wag po tayo ma-confuse ha. Minsan gumagamit tayo ng mu for sample and gumagamit tayo ng x bar for the population. But parehas lang silang patungkol sa mean. Parehas lang po silang average. Okay. For example, collect and count your data. Ito po yung ating first step. For any set of data values, the mean is the measure of central value. At take note na kapag nagsosolve po tayo ng measures of absolute dispersion, ginagamit po talaga natin yung measures of central tendency. And one of it is the mean. Kaya nga po kanina pinag-usapan natin yung mean. Okay, depending on the type of data, the mean tells you the central value of that data. So for example, ito po yung scores natin. The first thing that we're going to do is to collect and count your data. So after that, let's find the mean. Ano nga ba yung mean ng scores na to? Okay, add natin. We have the formula for mean. So yung mean daw natin, let me just introduce this one as mu. It is equal to summation of x, or the summation of scores divided by the total number of scores. So if we're just going to get the summation and divide it by the total number of scores, it will be the summation of these scores divided by 6. It will give us a result of 8.33. Okay, so ngayon para mas madalian tayo na isolve yung ating mean deviation, isulat na lang natin yung mean na katabi ng score so that kapag pinag-subtract natin sila, madali lang po nating makikita yung difference. So, especially when you are using Microsoft Excel, madali lang yan because that column subtracted by the column number 2, it will give you the result for the mean deviation. Okay, so calculate the deviation of each data point. Ibig sabihin po, iso-subtract lang po natin yung score doon sa ating mean. It will give us, it will give us 2 minus 8.33. Also, we have 5 minus 8.33. We also have 7 minus 8.33. 10 minus 8.33. 12 minus 8.33 and 14 minus 8.33. So, yun lang po yung ating mean deviation. Okay, and it will give us a result of negative 6.33, negative 3.33, negative 1.33, 1.67, 3.67, and 5.67. So now we have calculated the mean deviation, and then after that, we're going to find the absolute value. Ano nga ba yung absolute value? So these are just the values inside these brackets. So yung bracket na makikita natin na ganito, that is just the absolute value. So we can say that this one is the mean deviation. Ano nga ba yung mean deviation natin ulit? This is just equal to x minus mu. So kung x minus mu yung mean deviation natin, therefore we can just say that the absolute value of the mean deviation is just equal to x minus mu. So going back to my question earlier, ano nga ba yung absolute value? So yung absolute value po, any number that will be put inside this absolute value will be positive. So ibig sabihin po kapag yung isang number ay naka-raised into or inside the absolute value sign, positive lahat ng values niya. So kapag ilalagay natin, for example, yung ating 6.33 into the absolute sign, it will result to 6.33. And this one will be 3.33. The other one is 1.33. We also have 1.67, 3.67, and 5.67. These are the absolute value of our mean deviation. Okay, after obtaining the absolute value of our mean deviation, we have to find its average. So, paano ba natin makuha yung average of the mean deviation? Meron na tayong summation. This is already the summation of our absolute value. So, yung pag-calculate po natin ng mean, kagaya lang din po ng pag-calculate natin ng mean dito, which is equal to the summation of our mean deviation, which is just equal to x minus mu over the total number of scores, which is equal to n. So x bar is just equal to summation of x minus mu, which is equal to 22, divided by yung number of scores natin is equal to 6. Then therefore, it will give us a value of 3.67. Okay, this will be our answer for the average or the mean deviation. So how can we interpret this results. So for us to be able to interpret this, we know that the value that we have obtained earlier for the mean is equal to 8.33. So para malaman daw po natin or para ma-interpret lang natin, so the values are just 3.67 and we also have 3.67 here. So this is how we interpret our mean deviation. Okay, next we will be talking about the standard deviation and the variance. So the variance is the average square deviation from the mean, while the standard deviation is just the square root of the variance. So both measures reflect variability in a distribution but their units differ. Magkaiba po sila ng units kasi yung isa ay standard deviation, yung isa ay square, yung isa ay hindi. Okay, start muna tayo with the variance. We have the formula for the variance and it is denoted as S squared. It is just equal to the summation of our scores minus our mean squared over n minus 1. So ito po yung legend natin. X is the score, X bar is the mean, and n is the number of samples. Again, yung X daw natin minus our mean uh, squared over n minus 1. This will be the formula that we're going to follow for the variance. So tandaan po natin yung mga important things dito. Kailangan natin ng x, kailangan natin ng mean, at kailangan natin, ano po, kung naaalala nyo to, this is just the mean deviation. So kailangan po natin ng mean deviation. This is just equal to x minus x bar or x minus the mean. And then we're going to get the square. Hindi na po natin kailangan yung absolute value nito kasi kahit naman hindi absolute value yung value natin dito, kapag i-square natin siya, it will always result to a positive value. Then we have a denominator which is n minus 1 and it determines the number of samples. Okay, ito naman yung standard deviation natin. Madali lang naman kapag nakuha natin yung variance, kuhanin lang natin yung square root nun. That is the standard deviation. And as you can see, parehas lang siya ng formula. Ang nadagdag lang is the radical sign. Okay, example. The birth weights in pounds of 5 babies born in a certain hospital on a certain day are 9.2, 6.4, 10.5, 8.1, and 7.8. Find the variance and the standard deviation of the weights. Okay, let's start with this one. So, yung steps natin sa pagkuha ng variance, first, it's that we have to find the mean. Kasi naalala po natin, ang kailangan natin ay yung score. Siyempre, given yung score natin, then kukuhanin natin yung mean para makuha natin yung mean deviation, which is equal to x minus x bar, or the mean. And after that, we're going to find the square of this dun sa ating isang column, which is x minus x bar squared. Okay? And then take the average of the squared deviations. Okay, so let's have this one. The birth weights in pounds of 5 babies born in a certain hospital on a certain day are 9.2, 6.4, 10.5, 8.1, and 7.8. Find the variance and the standard deviation. So, kagaya ng sinabi ko kanina, variance muna tayo kasi mas madali nating makuha yung standard deviation if we are going to start with the variance. So, ganun lang din naman pala yung process. Kasi kapag inuna mong kuhanin yung standard deviation, square mo lang yun na yung variance. Pero una mo talaga makukuha yung variance bago mo makuha yung standard deviation. Okay. So, anyway, let's have it first. Ano ba yung mga factors na kailangan natin dito? So una, according to our formula, kailangan muna natin daw kuhanin yung x bar. And x bar is just equivalent to the mean. So yung summation po ng scores natin sa x over the total number of scores. So ilan yung scores natin? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Therefore, pwede natin itong masolve by just x bar is equal to the summation of the scores divided by n, and it will result to 8.4. So, dahil may 8.4 tayo, we all know that x minus x bar, this is our mean deviation. So, i-recta na natin. We have 9.2 minus 8.4, it is equal to 0.8. 6.4 minus 8.2, it is negative 2. 10.5 minus 8.4, that is 2.1. 8.1 minus 8.4, that is negative 0.3. And 7.8 minus 8.4, it is negative 0.6. Okay, again, you don't have to get the absolute value kasi baka magdagdag lang yun ng column. Hindi na po natin kailangan kuhanin yung absolute value kasi i-square naman natin siya. And any number na naka-raise sa power of 2 will result to a positive number. Kahit negative number man yan, basta naka-raise siya sa power of 2, magiging positive yan. And kapag kinuha natin yung third column, which will be our numerator, it will result to these values. So yung square ng 0.8 is just equivalent to 0.64 followed by the following values. So nakuha na natin yung ating mga kailangan. Yung s squared daw natin is just equal to summation of x minus x bar. Tama ba? Squared over n minus 1. So, ito madali na yung n minus 1 kasi alam na natin yung n. Ito na lang yung kailangan natin. So, meron pa pala tayong kulang, yung summation. So, we have to find the summation of these values. Okay, if we're just going to add them together, it will give us a score of 9.5. So, meron na tayong value ng summation of x minus x bar squared, which is 9.5. Now, it is easy for us to determine the variance kasi given na yung ating mga values. So, the variance is just equal to this formula. Okay, apply lang natin, substitute lang natin yung values natin. This is already the summation, kung naalala nyo yun sa ginawa natin kanina. So, meron na tayong numerator at meron na rin agad tayong denominator. This is just equal to 9.5 divided by n minus 1, and n minus 1 is 5 minus 1. It will result to 9.5 divided by 4. And 9.5 divided by 4 is equal to 2.375. So, pa-counter check na lang, it is equal to 2.375. This is our variance. So, na-solve na natin yung isa. This is our variance. This is 2.375. Okay, so madali na nating makuha yung ating standard deviation. Just get the square root of the variance or just the square root of 2.375. It will give us a result of 1.541. So let's see. Counter check pa rin natin para sure tayo. For the standard deviation, pwede nating i-substitute yung scores natin dito. We have S. S is equal to square root of, we all know that x minus x bar squared is just equal to 9.5. So, kuhanin lang natin. This is equal to 9.5 divided by n minus 1, it is equal to 5 minus 1. So, yung s daw natin is just equivalent to the square root of 9.5 divided by 4. And it will also give us a result which is equal to 1.541. So, either of the two methods, so ang ginawa lang naman natin, in-expand lang natin yung formula dito. No? Pero parehas lang sila. We just have to get the square root of the variance for us to be able to obtain the standard deviation. Okay, and that is how we solve the measures of absolute dispersion. Again, ano nga ba yung topics na na-discuss natin kanina? We have already discussed the range. Range is just equal to the highest value minus the lowest value on our data point. We also have the quartile deviation, and the quartile deviation is just equal to 1/2 our IQR. Okay, the third one, we have the mean deviation. Yung mean deviation natin, it is just the difference between uh, the score and the mean. And after that, these are the formulas that we have for the standard deviation and for the variance. And let us take note that the standard deviation is just the square root of the variance. And these are all the coverage of our topic for the measures of absolute dispersion. God bless everyone.